When you're doing comedy and you start laughing, what is that? Or does the group on SNL really frown on that? It's like, I never broke, or you broke, or what is that? What is the behind the scenes of breaking or not breaking?
So, I mean, everyone has their own thing about it, but most people, like, you try not to, of course, before you're ever on the show and ever dream of it, like, you love when people break.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, like, Chris Farley doing Matt Foley, like, Van Down by the River, and, like, David Spade and Christina Applegate are sitting, like, I mean, I just remember that because it looks so fun, But then when you're on it, you kind of start to realize, like, well, it's a really cheap gimmick because the audience is going to immediately get on your side. So you can't be laughing through everything you're doing, or you're just not really, like you said, you're not serving the material. But then, of course, there's sometimes, AKA the Debbie Downer at Disney World.
I was about to say, I was like, that's a legendary break.
That's like the giant break. And we all just started laughing. And I don't even really know why I started laughing at the beginning. I flubbed a word. I think, like, I wanted it to work so badly because we had done it in dress. Because, at SNL, you're always trying to get, like, a character that works.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this could be a good one. But I thought that about another thing, like, didn't even get to air. So you just never know. So this one, though, I felt really good about them. And during dress rehearsal, it went really well. But, like, Jimmy and Horatio were laughing a lot. And I wasn't laughing. And I was thinking, like, you guys, like, it's up for me. But then at air, I flubbed a word. And then I don't know what it was. It might have been like nervous energy, but I just started laughing at the flub. And then knowing that the camera's coming in every time, like, that made it even worse. And then, like, if you watch, my lip starts to tremble. Like, my lip is, like, involuntarily going, like, it
is such.
I'm trying so hard to control my face, but it
is such a legendary, like, because that. You were on my generation of SNL, right? So, like, that, like, you talk about Chris Farley and, like, and of course I went back and watched, like, Gilda and Steve and, like, all that kind of stuff. But, like, growing up, you were the cast that I watched. And so, like, that break during that sketch, the push in of you being like, I think there was something like, my cat has AIDS or something. And you're just completely losing it. And it's so tight. It was beautiful. Like, if you're gonna, I appreciate the fact that you're like, you try not to break because then it becomes like a gimmick. Yeah. But, like, what a great way to, like, if you're gonna do it, you guys did it fantastically.
It's so funny. I'm crying laughing just thinking about it right now.
So good. I'm gonna go home and rewatch it again.
It really
so
is
good.
because we get to participate with you. I don't know exactly what it is, but it just is. And the Ryan Gosling episode just a little while ago, there was a lot of breaking. And it still was fun, because it was so funny.
Well, Kate McKinnon's like,
we're enjoying it with, I think it's okay to break.
I know it doesn't bother me, but
well, I was just gonna say, I feel like Lorne Michaels has this, like, sort of legendary, like father figure kind of, like, reputation sometimes, but I feel like that's not necessarily the case, because if you really get into his backstory, like, he was this, like, cool guy in the 60s and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, but I feel like that's why a lot of times people are like, oh, you're not supposed to break and you get in trouble, is because of his kind of reputation.
Really.
I just watched Albert Brooks being interviewed by Rob Reiner. Did you watch that documentary or no?
No.
Oh, it's so good.
Great.
But
I haven't seen that either.
They talk about the Albert Brooks show that Lorne Michaels wanted to do. And he was like, yeah, I don't want to do that, but I want to make, like, little movies. I don't want to be the host every week. You should have rotating hosts and stuff. So Albert Brooks, I mean, whether it's true or not, he was possibly a good catalyst to setting the tone as to what it was going to be.
I've got to see that.
I'm going to jump ship now on that topic, and I want to hear, what was it like? Did you get a call from Wizards? Were you aware of the show? Did you watch it? What was your first kind of take on becoming future Harper? How did that go? Please tell us about that.
Well, I'm trying to think back. I think I probably just got the call from my agent, and then maybe one of the writers, Pete Murrieta, who was also at Second City when I was there, he might have thought of me for this. I don't know,
sure.
But I imagine it was like some Second City nepotism that might have gotten me this part. And I wasn't really aware of the show, but I was just always looking to do fun things, so when it came up, it seemed really fun. So, yeah, I said, sure.
Well, and what do you remember? Because how many, I remember you being on for like maybe a day or two, right?
Yeah,
like you weren't there for the whole week, right? Yeah, I think it was just a day
just a day or two. Yeah.
But what do you remember about like the costume fittings? Because I mean, we were mentioning earlier, you had that amazing like fishbowl hat.
Right. So all I remember was I had the fishbowl on my head, and it wasn't like you just see things happen on TV, and you're like, oh, it just works. But then like think of actually tying a fishbowl to your head. There's going to be some logistical. Mm-hmm. So I remember they really had to. And I had to keep my head pretty still. I remember that. Like, I had to walk like I had a book on my head, because I had a fishbowl on my head. So it was basically just tied on with a ribbon, from what I remember. That was my biggest, like, costume memory of that. But I will say I do get stopped, like, every once in a while to be like, Future Harper. Like, you never know what someone's going to come up to you about. And, like, that's kind of a deep cut, like you said, deep cut.
Yeah.
When someone's like, Future Harper, but everyone remembers the fishbowl.
Well, because it was such like an iconic, because I remember, I think I had like a little like teaser to the fishbowl because I had a big rubber fish headband or something. Because we were going over like the shows has been interesting, like retrospective, because in the first season we were trying to find like Harper's style and clothes and stuff like that. And then second season when you came in, because I think it was, season 2, episode 16, we had really leaned into the theme thing. And that was an aquatic week.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny.
But how did you, I know it's a kid's show and all that kind of stuff, but how did you approach? Because sometimes it's hard to come in like midweek for a day, jump into that world and jump back out. So how did you approach that?
Well, it is I'm kind of shy a little bit. So like when I know, like if you walk into SNL and you know everyone, it's like, oh, hey, what's up? But when you're coming into someone else's set, I'm always like, how do you want this done? Like I don't go into it like, here's what I think. You're just like, what's the tone? I don't want to be too big or too small. Like that's why I always like, that's my dial. That's my act. You were talking about Uta Hagen. My dial is like bigger or smaller. Like that's my question. Do you want this shouted or do you want me to be real? There's a lot of process happening.
Honestly, for Disney, that's pretty fair. Because I think SNL even did the whole like Disney School of Acting sketch, which is so funny. It's just basically like, you just yell and get louder than the other person. And it's like, so big and small works great.
Which is why I fit really well with Disney. That my dad was always very, gregarious and loud and big. So if you wanted to say something, you had to get in there. At the dinner table, you had to be loud and
same with my family.
I've never been told to make it bigger. I've only been told to turn it down.
Well, did you ever hear, I heard once they said, especially with Disney, they said it's better to go too big because they know they can bring you down, but they don't know if they can get you there. They don't know if they can get you to push that far, but they know they can bring you down. So I remember with just Disney and other like kid stuff back in the day that they were always saying, just go bigger.
What was your first job as a like in front, not on stage, but being filmed? What was that?
It was, aside from some commercials in Chicago, it was probably SNL.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that was the first. And that's how I've heard, maybe it's changed now, but I heard like back in the day, like, Lauren likes to get people like that, like kind of out of nowhere, kind of, so. Out of nowhere,
but you had been working and doing so much forever.
Well, it's the overnight. Like, I think he likes people to come out of like Second City. By the way, I'm speaking for him. I don't really know. But this is just what you hear, like Second City or Groundlings back in the day. Now it's a lot of stand-ups. But he doesn't take a ton of people that have like a lot of movies under their belt. Or that might have changed now, but that's what it was. But I feel like, we were talking about earlier on, I can't remember if it was on camera, off camera. These conversations all kind of blend like they do. But about how like as a kid, you're so instinctual and you're so just like, don't second guess things and don't like overthink and you can stay in the moment. And I wonder too, it's like, if you don't, it's not polished, because I know improv and Second City and Groundlings and all that stuff really does polish you and really like gets you really finessed as a comedian. But I think it's a lack of, or I'm pontificating that it's a lack of like inhibition, or it's a lack of like being aware of what you look like. And I feel like a lot of times when people start to work more in television and movies, there becomes an awareness of appearance, which can't happen in comedy. I feel like you have to commit and not give a shit what you look like.
Right.
Otherwise it's, it kind of screws you.